All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of FluteSpresso, sponsored by Flute Specialists. My name is Berta Teodora, and I'm so excited to be here today to get to chat with flutist, teacher, and composer Phyllis Louke. Phyllis is an altus artist and plays principal flute with the Tillicum Chamber Orchestra and Oregon Symphonic Band. She also maintains a large private studio, and on top of performing and teaching, Phyllis directs the Rose City Flute Choir and is an award-winning composer and arranger. Aside from her own compositions, she's also a co-author of an award-winning pedagogical series with Patricia George. And beyond all of that, Phyllis is just an awesome and genuine person. So Phyllis, welcome. Thank you for being here today, and I'm so excited to get to chat with you.
Well, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Awesome. So for everyone tuning in, please join us in our conversation today. Leave a comment below and let us know where you're watching from and what you're drinking. And if you're looking for a new coffee to try this fall, check out Lily and Willie's FluteSpresso roast on our Flute Specialist website. Phyllis, you've tried this coffee and you love it, right?
I have, and it's really wonderful.
Yeah.
I like the dark roast.
Oh, good. So throughout our chat today, if you have any questions for Phyllis, drop them in the comments below. And at the end of our live chat, we will pick one lucky winner from the comment section who will receive a Flute Specialist mug signed by Phyllis herself. Cheers! All right, so to get started, Phyllis, I'd love to ask, how did you start playing the flute and when did you develop your passion for teaching and composing?
Well, I decided when I was in third grade that I wanted to be a teacher, and so I always loved, loved to think about teaching people to do things, even when I was very young. I started playing the flute in seventh grade, and I decided to play the flute when the band director came around to the sixth grade classrooms, and I went home and I announced to my mom, I decided to play the flute. I'm going to play in the beginning band next year. And she goes, the flute? Because my parents have no musical ability. And I said, well, would you rather I played the tuba? And so anyway, so that was how I got started. And I just loved the flute. And I'd also always wanted like piano lessons. And we didn't have a piano. And so a few months after I started playing the flute, my mom rented a piano, and there was actually a piano teacher who lived a few houses up the street, who was really a well-trained, good teacher. And so I got to take piano lessons. And I played flute all through junior high and high school, and, then went to college with it too.
Wow, that's really great. So how did you know in third grade that early that you wanted to teach?
I don't know. I just liked helping. I would help other students in the class with homework and that sort of thing. And I just really liked doing it.
Yeah, just a natural helper. That's awesome. Mm-hmm. So is that what you love most about teaching now?
Yeah, I really, I mostly, just teach flute now, but I have been like an elementary school teacher and music teacher, like for classroom music type thing. But I've just always liked working with people, whether they're kids or adults, and helping them do better. Play better and how to, start learning how to play the flute.
Yeah.
I teach all ages, so I've taught at the college level, and I've taught very, very young students, like second or third grade, how to play the flute.
I bet a lot of your students are like really comfortable around you because you have like such a warm presence and you just love to help.
Yeah, I hope they do. I think they do. I mean, I'm still in touch with a lot of my former students, and it's really fun, seeing them as grown-ups and having families of their own and that sort of thing. And so I hear from them, periodically.
That's really rewarding to like not only see their flute journey, but also just their personal life.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So, how did that lead you to start composing? When did you start developing your passion for that?
Well, interesting story. When we moved to Portland, because I'm originally from Southern California, and I met my husband at University of California in Santa Barbara. We had played in band together, and that's how we met. And then when we moved up to Portland, we wanted to get involved with the band, and so we played in a community band for a number of years until we started having kids. And toward the end of my pregnancy with my first child, we stopped going to band, and somehow we kept meaning to go back, and it didn't happen. And when I finally did call to go back to the band we'd been playing in, they didn't have any openings for flute. And so the person I talked to suggested talking to Therese Kelson, who conducted Rose City Flute Choir. So I called her up because I'd played flute choir in college. And that was in the early 70s. And anyway, so I started playing in the flute choir. And that fall, she said, I know you're Jewish. Do you have any flute choir arrangements of Jewish songs or Hanukkah songs? And I said, no. And she said, can you write out the melody and the harmony, and we'll have somebody arrange it? And I go, well, okay. And then I sat down at the piano and I said, well, I could probably arrange something. So anyway, that's how I got started. I arranged a couple Hanukkah songs, and the flute choir performed them. And then I got real excited about doing it, and people in the flute choir, why didn't you arrange this? And why don't you arrange that? And so I started doing a lot of arrangements. And then one day I thought, well, maybe I could come up with my own melody and just arrange that. And so that's how I started composing.
Wow, that's awesome. Do you remember the moment where you first heard your arrangement in person?
Yeah, it was really cool to hear it, with real flutes, not just from the computer.
Mhm. That's really awesome. So, I've noticed that a lot of your works are programmatic.
Mhm.
So, where do you draw inspiration when you compose?
Different places. The first, I'm trying to think. The first commission that I had was to write a piece for alto flute and piano, and which became Echoes in the Wind, a Native American soliloquy. And I was inspired on that one. Sam and I had gone, my husband and I had gone on a driving trip with our kids through some of the national parks. Basically, we went through the northern part of the United States because I wanted to go to Niagara Falls. And so we went through Glacier National Park, and there I found this greeting card with a really cool picture of a Native American flutist um, who there was, you could see the sky and the moon and the stars, and I just imagined that he was up on a mountaintop playing a flute, and that the sound would echo, and that's how that piece came about. And so I started writing, and I'd have my kids come in. I said, okay, tell me what this sounds like. And, they'd always look at me like they didn't want to get the wrong answer. So they listened. I said, oh, sounds like Indian music. And I said, okay, good. I'm on the right track. So.
Oh, that's awesome. So you already talked a little bit about your first experiences with flute choir. You said it was in college, right?
Right.
So did you play all throughout college in flute choir?
Yes, I did. My freshman year, I went, my freshman year, I didn't start flute choir right away because I didn't know about it. but my freshman year, the first quarter, I met a gal who lived in our dorm who played the flute, and she was telling me about the flute choir, and she had just gotten a new flute, so she was showing it to me, and she said, if you play in the flute choir, Mr. Atkinson will give you flute lessons. And I said, oh, what's a flute choir? So she told me, and so I went and talked to him and started playing in the flute choir. And he started giving me lessons, because even though my parents got me piano lessons, even though I asked for flute lessons, they didn't. They said, you already know how to play the flute. You don't need flute lessons. So anyway, so he took me under his wing and was very encouraging and gave me a lot of playing opportunities and that sort of thing. So, I'm kind of forever grateful to him for that, and also introducing me to flute choir. And at a time when there weren't that many specifically flute choir pieces, so he did a lot of arrangements on his own. So we had a lot of things in manuscript. So in the days before the computer programs that made the nice typesetting programs for music. So anyway, and so then when I got to start playing in a flute choir, I knew what it was, and it was really nice being able to, help the flute choir by doing some arranging and composing.
Wow, that's a great incentive for playing in the flute choir, getting lessons. So how did that lead you to directing the Rose City Flute Choir? So you started arranging for them at first, and how did you then become the director?
Well, Teresa Kelton wanted to take some time off from conducting, and she said, "Do you want to do it?" And I think at that time we were in a flute quartet together, and so I said, "Okay, sure," because I'd taken conducting class in college, and so hadn't really gotten in front of a group of flutes before, but anyway, I learned pretty quickly, and anyway, I really enjoyed doing it, and I think we got good results. So I've been doing that for, I don't know, 20, maybe 30 years. I mean, it's been a long time since since she left to go to Colorado.
Wow. So I bet the flute choir's grown a lot since then.
Yeah, and the number of people vary. It's an adult non-auditioned group. We have a mixture of ability levels, and which is actually really nice, because it creates kind of a helping bring everybody up to a level. So I vary the part. Everybody gets a variety of different parts. We don't have like chairs, like you always get a first or you always get a piccolo part. And so everybody gets a variety of parts from first to third, or however many parts there are. We're doing something right now, I think one or two things that have 6 parts. So anyway, it just spreads it out, so there's less people playing each part. And the group owns, 3 bass flutes and 2 alto flutes. And from performing several times at NFA conventions, people have gotten inspired, especially people who like playing alto and bass flutes, and then have bought their own. So we have access to quite a few people playing those instruments, their own instruments, as well as people who borrow the flute choir's instruments to play them.
Yeah.
So our balance is, really improved, having a nice, a lot of bottom to the group.
Yeah, it's really nice to have some low flutes in there.
Right.
When is your next concert?
Our next concert is the first weekend. We have 2 concerts the first weekend of December. One of them will be at a festival called the Grotto Festival of Lights. It's a church-owned property, and they have a beautiful church there. that has, it's very ringy, very live, but it's really beautiful. And, it kind of tests our ability to make sure that, we pause long enough for the ring to stop in between, like on fermatas and that sort of thing. But the acoustics are wonderful, and they decorate the whole property with, thousands or hundreds of thousands of lights on all the trees. It's a wooded property, and there are paths, and they have a petting zoo and all that kind of stuff. And so we play like a 45-minute concert in the church. And then the next day we're playing. We rehearse at a church in a suburb of Portland, and so we're going to replay the program at that venue as well.
Oh, that's awesome. I bet that's going to be beautiful, just with all the lights and everything. So are you going to be playing like Christmas music?
Yeah, it's mostly Christmas. We usually do Christmas and light classics, and that sort of thing. So, playing Sleigh Ride, and there's several different pieces on the program, and a couple of mine. So I think people are enjoying the program. We're also playing Umoja by Valerie Coleman, which is really a wonderful piece, and it's starting to gel. So it's going well.
Oh, that sounds like a great program. All right.
So I think everybody likes it. So
yeah, and we've had a couple comments that there's Heather and Callie. Their flute choirs have played your arrangements too, and they love it.
Oh, cool. Oh, yeah, I see this one from Heather. Oh, yeah, the Christmas and Hanukkah songs are really fun to do. I've done these flexible flute ensemble arrangements, several different ones, kind of with the idea that it's easy to put together with students, and there are things that are easy to put together if you have a gig, particularly if it's like background music type thing. You can put together the pieces really quickly. So, and they sound good. So anyway, so thank you for your kind words about those.
So you've written a pedagogical series with Patricia George. I actually have some of them here, and there's quite a lot of them. I'll show just one of this is the Flute 101 book. How did your collaboration with Patricia start, and what inspired the both of you to write this series?
Well, I met Pat through the Flute List email discussion group. And, we found that we were, responding to people's questions, in a similar way, and that we had similar ideas about teaching. And so, we'd kind of started an offline conversation and, developed a friendship. And a few years before we started writing the books, we met at actually a band teachers conference up in Seattle, Washington, and where I got to meet her and her husband. And later, fast forward a couple of years, I had a band director who sent me 6 beginning students in the same week. And I went down to the music store to buy the beginning method that I'd been using for years and years and years. And they changed it. They slapped a pretty girl on the cover, and they took all the content out of the book. And I thought, well, I'm going to try 2 each of 3 different books, and with these students, and I wasn't happy with any of them. And so I was, asking on the Flute List, okay, what beginning methods do you use, and all that kind of stuff. And a couple of people said, well, Phyllis, you should just write your own. And he's like, oh, I don't know about that. And so Patricia George wrote to me and said, well, if you decide to do it, I'd be glad to work with you on it. And I thought, okay, I can do that, because there's so, when you think about writing a method, it's a big responsibility, and you want to get it right. And I had a lot of experience teaching beginners at that time. And, but Pat had even more experience. She's been teaching even longer than I have. And so I figured it was a good combination because we had, we really, had similar thoughts about a lot of things. And so I said, okay, let's do that. And so we met, we talked on the phone a lot. And then we met, I think the year that the NFA convention was in Albuquerque, Sam and I decided to drive to the convention. And we went through, she was living in Pocatello, Idaho at the time, which was like a day's drive from Portland, where we live. And so we stopped there for a couple of nights, and then we got together during the days and, worked on kind of outlining the book and, coming up with some ideas for pages. And then I spent the next month or so trying to come up with like a format for pages, because I did all the typesetting for it in Finale. And some of it for the all text pages in Word. And so I really learned a lot during that point of things that worked and things that didn't work, because it was a lot to really do that from scratch. And eventually we came up with a book and we submitted it to a couple of publishers, both of whom did not approve it. And so we decided, well, okay, what the heck? We'll find a printer and we'll have it printed. So I did that in Portland. I found a printer and we printed up the first set of Flute 101 books. So I had, 500 books at my house. And we figured, okay, well, that should last a year or two. And I think we sold them all like in 2 months. And so we had some more printed. And in the meantime, the Flute convention that year was in New York, and the books were selling really, really well. And anyway, Theodore Presser decided to publish it after. Well, can we publish it? We made a big mistake. So anyway, so I was really glad to hear that they wanted to publish it, and I didn't have to store quite so many books at my house. So anyway, that's the story of how Pat and I came on board, and then Pat said, "Oh, we should write Flute 102." So then we started with the rest of the series. Actually, no, I think the next one was the flute scale book that we wrote. Which had a lot of the materials that Pat had used for years and years and developed, and but we worked together on the layout and explanations and that sort of thing, because there's a lot that goes into putting a book like that together.
Yeah, wow. I think it's so interesting and really important too to hear about how it all got started, because it's easy to see a finished product and think, oh, it must have been so easy to get there, but it's not.
Yep. But I mean, it's been really rewarding, because I think it's been a real asset to the flute community, to have that resource of those books. I mean, I know there's a lot of books out there and a lot of people use different books, but of course we think our books are the best. So
they're fantastic. They really are. When I was a grad student at Baylor, we used your Flute 101 book for flute methods.
Oh, good.
So it's a fantastic book, truly.
Thank you.
Yeah. So do you think there's going to be more? I know the most recent one was the 101.5, right?
Right. That's the 101.5. Pat wrote to me, a couple of weeks ago about an idea for another one. So there may be another one. We'll see. And but I mean, I love teaching out of them. I mean, they make my job as a teacher easier. And when I was teaching at Pacific University, I had a lot of non-majors in my studio, and they just were not comfortable with other keys other than the flat keys that they saw in band. And so I put them into our book, The Art of Chunking. It's Advanced Flute Methods, The Art of Chunking, and it goes through all the keys with etudes, and you just chunk them, you like a measure at a time, and it got them a lot more comfortable in playing in all the keys. So that was great. Now that's probably one of my favorite books to play out of myself. That and the scale book, flute scale book.
Yeah. I like the flute scale book too. It's a really great book.
It's just got so many things that you can do and so many ideas of how to do them. It's not just mindlessly going through scales.
Right. Yeah. I mean, all of these books are just so fantastic. It's so cool to hear how it got started and your meeting, you call her Pat, meeting Pat and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to take a quick look at Wendy's comment, going back to the flute choir topic. She says, how does your flute choir own flutes and who is responsible for them?
When we bought our first flute, I'm trying to think of which one. I think it was a bass flute. We had, well, the flute choir, like especially in the summers, we'll do little performances like at retirement homes, and actually we got hired by the parks department to play at a park, to do a concert in conjunction with a group of dancers. And I think we got to do something like that twice, concerts in the park twice, and that paid really good. And then there were people in a flute choir who, gave some money so that we could afford to buy that first instrument. And as we earned money, because at Christmas time too, we'll usually perform in retirement homes and that sort of thing. And so we, earn maybe a couple $100 per concert. And so when we had enough money to buy an instrument, we bought another instrument. So over the years, we now own 3 bass flutes and 2 alto flutes. So anyway, if you think about, if your flute choir, sells tickets or, has some little gigs at retirement homes or, other locations. We've played at farmers markets in the summertime, and that pay us to be there, and they usually pay at least a couple $100. It adds up, although the instruments are a lot more expensive now. So that's how we did that.
Thank you for sharing that, Phyllis. What encouragement would you give to somebody who wants to pursue a career in music?
A career in music? I think to diversify yourself as much as possible. If you think that, you're going, you want to play in an orchestra, professional orchestra and that sort of thing. I mean, those jobs are few and far between. So you want to, diversify yourself by doing other things like teaching, whether at a university or just a private studio where you teach all levels. If that's something that you enjoy, my career is, I play in an orchestra where I don't get paid, but it's a really good orchestra. But I have, my teaching income, and I have my composing and arranging income as well, and ASCAP, which when my music is performed, there is a royalty that is paid by the people performing my pieces that goes through ASCAP and comes back to me and my publishers. So, and then there's, like the sales of my music. Yeah. So, think of as in many different ways that, you can involve yourself with music or working for an arts organization. There are a lot of different avenues that we can take, and people have diverse types of interest in being involved in a music career.
Oh, that's great advice. Musicians wear many hats. Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, to end our chat today, I'd love to do the Flute Espresso Express round. So I just have a few questions for you, Phyllis, and you can elaborate as much or as little as you'd like.
Mhm.
So what are your favorite things to do outside of music?
I like to knit and crochet. I like to garden. I love my garden. Any of you who are my Facebook friends see pictures of my flowers. So, um, and I get together with friends and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, that leads me to my next question, which is what is your favorite flower?
oh, well, it would have to be between daffodils and hydrangeas.
Beautiful. What is your favorite place that you've traveled?
My favorite place that I went,
That you've traveled.
oh, traveled, France.
Where did you go in France? I'm getting off track now.
Oh, all over. I traveled with the International Flute Orchestra on our concert tours, and last year we went, or actually it was in May. We went to France, and we went. We usually try to go at least a few days earlier than when the tour starts, just so we can acclimate to the time zone. And last year um, we kind of planned a little trip that went to Dijon and uh, and to Paris that weren't on the itinerary for the actual group trip, and with some of our flute friends, and just had a great time. And then the International Flute Orchestra part of the trip, which is concert tour. We went to Nice, and we went all over, the Côte d'Azur, with Monaco, and those types of cities around there, and and then we ended up in the Alps in Chamonix, which is skiing town, and oh my God, it's just so beautiful. So we really got to see some of the places that we hadn't really been before, or hadn't spent, more time there, just getting to know the areas. And the food's fantastic, and the sights were wonderful. So we got seaside, we got mountains, and it was a great trip.
Oh, wow. It sounds like a great trip. All right, getting back on track. I have two more. What is your favorite musical memory?
Oh, hmm. Uh, I think, that's a tough one. It's hard to choose. I think probably when my first composition was performed.
Yeah,
I
that's
think
really special.
yeah, I think that was special.
Mm. Okay, last one. What is your favorite season of the year?
Oh, spring, hands down. I'm a spring baby. I was born on the first day of spring. I share a birthday with Johann Sebastian Bach and Mussorgsky. I love both of their music,
Well, that's
and
really cool.
and I love spring flowers. I mean, yeah, daffodils, tulips, azaleas, rhododendrons. So anyway, definitely spring.
Yeah, I was gonna ask if that had something to do with your garden. Um,
Yeah, but we've moved to a new house. In our old house we had a even larger yard, and there was something blooming all the time, and that was something that we tried to do in this yard as well. And we're getting there. There's still some things that I want to add to the garden, but we're going a long way to have something blooming all year long.
yeah. Oh, well, it was so wonderful to chat with you today, Phyllis. Thank you for sharing your story and experiences with us. And thank you, everyone, for joining. Don't forget to check out Phyllis's music and our new FluteSpresso roast on our Flute Specialists website, and we hope to see you next time.
Thank you.